This meeting is being live streamed.
Okay, it looks like we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Sorry, we're getting started a little bit late here. We've had some technical difficulties getting going, but I'm Coach Annika and I'm here with Coach Sandy. We're really excited to be here with you tonight to address the common struggle of weight loss plateaus. We've all been there and experienced the frustration of really working super hard to lose weight, but not seeing the scale budge. And we might be wondering, why isn't my effort paying off? Or what can I do to get past this plateau? Or you may even feel sometimes like just giving up. We want you to know that this is so common and there are things that we can do to break through the plateau and continue seeing results with your weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, everybody. Glad that we can be with you talking about this important topic. And so as you're joining, be sure to say hello, give us a like, and we'll do our best to check the comments and welcome you as you join. And we've also got Coach Vera monitoring the comments along with us tonight. So she'll be helping us out this evening. So I see folks already getting on with us. Of course, our Deb is with us, Deb L. So good to see you with us. As you're joining, of course, let us know you're on. But also comment if you have in the past or even are currently dealing with a plateau or slow weight loss, and feel free to add in anything that's worked for you in the past to get past a plateau. Because we can learn from you as well. Yeah.
Great. Well, first, just want to say that it is really important to determine when you feel like you're in a plateau, if your weight loss is truly stalling and not just a week or two of slow to no weight loss. I know that we all have our expectations about how quickly we should be losing. So it's important to know what your average weekly weight loss can be if you're eating only what's on your diet plan and getting in your exercise and your water. But your actual rate of weight loss, your fat loss, is dependent on a number of different variables, including your current weight, your gender, how much physical activity you're doing, and also how closely you're sticking to the diet plan. There are also things, we should mention that can cause water retention, which can, of course, impact what happens on the scale. And this includes medications, sore muscles, excess sodium, air travel, and even certain medical conditions, which again can impact what we see on the scale. So we're going to have Vera put a link to an article in the comments so that you can find the average weekly weight loss that you should be expecting for the Healthy Solutions diet plan. And here's another additional important perspective around this. Rather than looking at your 1 or 2 week weight change, you can look at your 3 to 4 week average to get a real sense of your rate of weight loss. Rarely do people lose the same amount of weight every week, and looking at this average over time is more indicative of how your weight loss is progressing. And one thing I want to remind people, for those of you, using the app, you can actually see your 3 week, 3 month, and all time progress by going into the weight section of the app and going into the charts and weight log section. And this is actually helpful both in phase 1 and phase 2 to track your weight loss progress, and also in phase 2 when you're working on managing your weight to just see how you're doing over time. So let's dive into our support session, breaking through weight loss plateaus or slow weight loss and tips to see results. Want to see who's joining us in the comments quickly. I see we have Mary and we have Kurt. Hi, Kurt. We have Debbie. We have Gatha. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We have Bob. Thank you guys for joining us in the comments here. And Sandy, do you want to start us off with tip number 1?
Of course. And Bob slid in there at the last second as you handed it over to me. So what's a Facebook Live without Bob from Rancho Cucamonga, California? Welcome, Bob. I think Vera's having a little trouble getting on, so she'll join us when she can in the comments. And if she's not able to, don't worry, we'll post that link that Annika referenced about how to know how much you can expect to lose on the program if you're doing healthy solutions. So, all right, let's jump into tip number 1 for getting past a weight loss plateau. So here it is. Make sure you're only eating what is allowed on your diet plan. In other words, stay in the box, right? And certainly eating foods not on your plan will slow down your weight loss. So, so take stock of everything you're eating. So one thing I want to just start off with is the first thing you need to do to make sure that you're, the first step in staying in the box is focus on getting in all of your foods, your diet minimums every day. And remember, you can always have more. So if you're still hungry, or if there are situations where you need to be full to stay in the box, more is better. And this is where you always start, right? You look at your records, you ask yourself, am I getting in all of my foods every day? If not, that's your priority. That's step number 1. Now, if you are getting everything in, and like I said, you're still hungry, maybe you're straying from the diet, you find yourself eating here and there off the diet, then more is better is where your focus is next. And more is better can feel so counterintuitive because we've all kind of have a history of hearing that we should eat less, right? If we're trying to lose weight. But HMR is very different that way. We know that if you go hungry, you're more likely to eat off the diet. So eat more of what's on your plan so that you can stay in the box. And that can help boost your weight loss and crowd out any mindless eating that you might do. And then some other tips, just to throw in some other things that help to stay in the box, help you stay on track. And a lot of these things you can take into phase 2 as well for managing your weight there. Increasing the number of shakes during the day and making sure many, if not all of them, are made in a high volume way, using lots of ice, extra liquid, adding low calorie add-ins for volume and flavor. And so think about ways that you can pump up the volume of your shakes that you're having. I know Annika's big on high volume shakes, so I have to stop and ask, what is your favorite these days, your favorite high volume shake?
Yeah, I love playing around with different high volume shake recipes. I mean, a good go-to is always, diet root beer, 20 plus ounces, lots of ice with a vanilla shake. But one new one I tried this week, I really enjoyed was probably 22, 24 ounces of water and ice. I used sugar-free coconut syrup and a tablespoon of the cheesecake Jello pudding mix. So it was kind of like a coconut cream pie, plus of course my vanilla shake powder. And that's a new favorite for me. I'll definitely be doing that again. And adding those extra flavors in there really helps the shake stretch further. So you can get the extra volume without compromising the flavor of the shake, which is important too.
Yeah, so important to keep enjoying your foods, right? So that you can stay with it, stay with the program as long as you need to, and keep it interesting that way. Getting a lot of great comments from folks. Bob says more is better has saved me many times. Mm-hmm. And I know Bob has shared over the years that just that truth of how without it, he would have been, not at the place where he is now. Mm-hmm. Deb is mentioning leafy greens. And I know her coach worked with her to work in more leafy greens to really help with, we're going to talk about fruits and vegetables right now, but as a way to, get in some low starch vegetables. And that's actually one of the ways that you can help yourself stay in the box is to add things like those non-starchy vegetables, spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, cucumbers, zucchini. They're all high in water content, high in fiber, low calorie, very low calorie vegetables. So you can really add a lot of bulk without adding a lot of calories and be very full on them. I don't want to forget too, we were talking about high volume shakes, and often when we think about high volume shakes, we want to think about them just being the shake powder and the liquid and the flavorings that you're adding in. And that's an opportunity to have your fruit on the side. And when we have our fruit kind of in its whole form, it is definitely more filling, and you can use them as snacks rather than just include kind of hidden in your shake. Not that there's anything wrong with having fruit in your shake, there's not. But this could be a way to, work those fruits in as other times during the day as snacks to stay on track.
It's more eating occasions with the same number of foods. Yeah.
We all like to eat. I've been having some of those grape tomatoes dipped in a very low calorie ranch as a snack in the evenings. That's been my go-to lately for my low starch veggie. That's fruit, I guess.
Deb is asking to repeat my new favorite combo shake. So I'll repeat it. Deb, I did a bunch of ice and water, probably 22, 24 ounces. I did sugar-free coconut syrup and a tablespoon of the cheesecake Jell-O pudding mix with a scoop of vanilla shake. So those three together, delicious coconut cream pie.
Yes. And if you're just joining us, you may have gotten the idea that maybe I should grab something to take notes on, because we're going to be sharing even more ideas and some tips, and some recipes may sneak in like that. You may want to write them down. All right. Well, Annika, you mentioned, more eating occasions, and for those of us who do like to graze throughout the day, it's okay as long as you're eating your in the box foods. And it just reminds me that it's important to eat frequently, like every couple of hours. Start early, eat every couple of hours to stay ahead of hunger. That is just key if staying in the box is difficult, for sure. Yeah. Another tip for staying in the box is avoiding those, we call them BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes. May not seem like much at the time, but over time, those little tastes can really add up, hundreds of calories and extra calories that you don't even realize, that certainly don't fill you up, can add up quickly, and it can slow down our weight loss. So thinking about, if you're preparing foods and you tend to be tasting them as you're preparing them, maybe designate someone else in the household to be your taster. And then, just one more thing about the BLTs, try to avoid just taking one bite, just taking a taste, because you may not think of it as being much at the moment, but it can escalate. One bite can become 2, 3, 4, and it can quickly escalate into more out of the box eating. I've personally experienced that more than once. And so, and I've heard from many others that can be an issue, just a slippery slope. So watch those BLTs.
Yeah, Bob said no samples at Costco.
Yeah,
it's a great example of that, because lots of those little samples can add up, and you can really think, I haven't really eaten that much extra calories, but
right.
Be surprised. So
yeah.
Always have a shake on your way to Costco.
The Costco should come with a warning. Go around those tasters, right?
Yeah.
Don't walk by them. It's so tempting. All right. Something else before we move on to tip number 2, but something else that helps us stay in the box is to look at your environments. Look at where you spend your time, and are there foods there that you need to remove or avoid, maybe places you shouldn't go, to make it easier to resist tempting foods. We've been talking about supportive environments in our groups this week, so this is top of my mind. And an example might be, you may not be able to tell your coworker not to bring pizza to the break room, but you can avoid the break room. And of course, at home, if let's say your kids have their snacks on the counter where they're in plain sight. Let's see if we can get those out of sight in their own place where you don't go, and have your bowl of fruit or your shake canister on the counter instead as a reminder that's what you're doing. That's your grab and go. So yeah, be mindful of your environments, make them as supportive as possible. We don't have to rely on willpower when we're taking care of our environments. So to recap, if you just joined us, tip number 1 to increase weight loss or to get past a plateau is to make sure you're in the box. And the way to do that is to meet your diet minimums every day, no matter what, and go beyond those minimums to stay full and satisfied when you need to. Avoid the BLTs, the bites, licks, and tastes, and remove tempting foods from your environment. Keep the comments coming with what you've already done, but also if you've heard something, a change you need to make, something you need to implement right away, put that in the comments too, just for a little accountability. So Annika, what's tip number 2 for getting the scale moving?
Yeah, so another thing we can focus on when we feel like we're in a weight loss plateau or the scale isn't moving as much as we'd like is to really aim to increase your physical activity to 300 calories per day minimum. Physical activity will really help to speed up your weight loss and also have an immediate impact on your quality of life, your mental outlook as well. So the goal is 300 calories per day or 2,000 calories burned each week. And some tips for increasing your physical activity can include incorporating small bouts of PA throughout the day. So it can be 5 to 10 minute bouts of movement, which can also be a little bit more manageable to fit into your schedule. In fact, a study found that for weight loss, splitting a single exercise into multiple bouts across the day actually may provide greater benefit. So just another reason to look for more opportunities to move. Another thing to consider when you're working on increasing your physical activity to increase your weight loss is to schedule PA like you would an appointment. Put it in your calendar, make it a priority in your schedule, because there are a lot of things vying for our time, but we need to make sure to prioritize it. Something we've talked about recently in our groups too is shooting for a high day of physical activity when you have the opportunity to get an extra push, or even sampling some higher intensity exercises. These are all ways to kind of push yourself a little bit. And as we increase our physical activity, it's going to help us on the scale as well. And then one more thing I want to add, consider adding or sampling a day or two of strength training because increasing your lean muscle mass is a great way to help your body, use more calories daily, even just at rest. So, don't discount the strength training exercises in addition to, your other exercises you enjoy. One last thing, when it comes to physical activity, of course, we're talking about increasing to 300 a day or even beyond that if you want to do an extra push. But something that goes along with physical activity is also tracking your activity and keeping records in the app. There's something about checking your summary in the app throughout the week to see how you're doing and progressing towards your goal that can help you actually push even further if you need to. So keeping an eye on that as a way to kind of push yourself as well. And also remember that all physical activity is great, but the best kind of physical activity you can do is the one that you enjoy and stay consistent with. So there's no right or wrong way to exercise. What's important is that you get in the movement, on a daily, weekly basis that helps you stay in motion, but also helps you enjoy it because that's going to be sustainable for long term. But when we're talking about increasing our physical activity and weight loss plateaus, it's also important to remember that as your physical activity increases, you'll also want to be sure to increase your water intake. The more you exercise, the more water you'll need. And 8 cups a day might not always be enough if you're exercising Hydration, kind of tying it back to what we've talked about with our high volume shakes. Hydration also comes from our high volume shakes as well as our fruits and veggies. So more is better, in combination with your increase of physical activity can be a good kind of combination for breaking through those weight loss plateaus as well.
Great tips there, Annika. And in our app, in our tracking feature, you can go beyond the 8 cups of water and log more than 8. So that's good if that's your goal to drink more than 8 glasses. So excellent. All right, so we got through tip number 1 and 2. Let's move into tip number 3 for getting past a weight loss plateau. And I think this applies to phase 1 and phase 2, just as a reminder for watching out for calories that might sneak in. So tip number 3 is to make sure you measure your add-ins, your condiments, your sauces, and because the flavorings we add to our meals, to our shakes, to our veggies and fruits, the condiments that we use, they have the potential to add too many extra calories if we're not careful and end up slowing down our weight loss. So the general rule that we have for anything you add, practically anything you add to as an add-in, is 15 calories or less per tablespoon. And try to aim for no more than 1 or 2 tablespoons per meal or per meal replacement. There's a couple of exceptions to that, like peanut butter powder is usually about 25 calories a tablespoon. So is the sugar-free, fat-free pudding mix that I think, Annika, you mentioned you use cheesecake in that high volume shake. But so there's a couple of exceptions there. But we want to definitely measure, because if you rely on eyeballing, pouring in, first of all, it's going to be unknown how many calories you just added, and it's so easy to underestimate the calories that you're adding in your serving in quotes, and it can really cause some extra calories to come in you just don't even realize. So I do want to say this too. Actually, I'm going to pause here. I think, Annika, you had told me about an instance where you thought you were adding a tablespoon of an add-in and it turned out to be much more. You want to share that story? It's a good place for it.
Yeah, I do want to add too, when we're talking about measuring add-ins, condiments, and sauces, people historically underestimate the calories they consume. Even extremely successful weight loss maintainers underestimate the calories they consume. So you might think this might not make a big deal, but it really does when you consider, just kind of the errors we can make in measuring. My example is, I like to measure my add-ins, my condiments, by just putting my blender cup or my bowl right on my food scale. It just is a foolproof way to know exactly what I'm adding, and stick to those serving sizes. And my example is, I was at the end of my PB2 powder container and I looked at it and I thought, that looks about a tablespoon. I poured it into my smoothie cup on my food scale. It looked like about a tablespoon in the cup as well. And when I calculated what the serving actually was to calories, it became over 100 calories from just what I added in. And from just looking at it, I would have assumed that was a 30-calorie tablespoon. So it just goes to show that, we might think that this is an acceptable amount of something to add in, but it's really can be sneaky that way, and we can underestimate what we're adding in. So yeah, that was eye-opening for me.
I love that story, because how many of us think, I can eyeball it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Creamer, salad dressing, where, we just got to measure. We just have to measure every time. There's also, certainly hidden calories and fat and sodium in dressings and creamers. So not only measuring, but reading labels to make sure they are 15 calories or less per tablespoon, and measure every time. I'll tell you one thing that helps me. I've got a little show and tell here, is a reminder is to just put a tablespoon measure, just rubber band on my favorite low calorie dressing, Olive Garden light Italian. And another reason I have to measure that one, not just because of calories, but it's kind of high in sodium. And so I'll do 1 tablespoon of that because I don't want anytime I do more than one, my hands swell up. But I'll do a squeeze of lemon and some Italian herbs just to stretch that salad dressing a little bit more. Same with like a peanut butter powder. I'll do a tablespoon measure with a rubber band. And then if I'm heading out to a restaurant, whether I'm taking creamer or salad dressing along, I'll put it in just a tiny little container. I can just throw that in my bag and go and put that on my salad, or if it's creamer, I'll put it in my coffee, that sort of thing. So just wanted to give you a few tips on watching out for where extra calories can be coming in and slowing down your progress.
Yeah. Not only that, like you mentioned, the sodium, really, if we're adding extra sodium to a lot of our different meals or vegetables, that can certainly impact water retention and what the scale ends up saying. So it's important to be mindful of both the extra calories and the extra sodium for that reason. And, if you're trying to fine tune, what's going on and you're in the box and you're experiencing that weight loss plateau, good reminder to pay attention to those little extras that might be taking you a little bit over your sodium intake or your calories. But thank you. So the last bonus tip that we have for you
Bonus tip.
The bonus tip we have is to consider joining free weekly coaching. If you are not already signed up, you really want to take advantage of the free virtual coaching for more support, ideas, and accountability. Coaching is free when you're enrolled in auto delivery, and members who join coaching do lose more weight than those who diet alone. Plus, us coaches are able to look at your records and help you kind of pinpoint your next steps if your weight loss stalls. It's good to have, an extra set of eyes to really take a look at opportunities for us to try different things, move in different directions. So take advantage of the coaching if you're not already. I'm smiling because Dawn is in one of my groups and she said, my coach is best. Thank you, Dawn. Glad that you can be here. So comment, you guys, and let us know, out of all of the tips that, we've talked about tonight, if you heard a tip that you want to try this week to help kind of boost your weight loss or just try something different, let us know in the chat, please.
Yes. Thank you. We've had a few folks join us here towards the end, and don't worry, this will be, in our Facebook group for you to rewatch what you missed. And I know Vera is having technical difficulties getting into the comments, so we'll be posting that link that we talked about earlier for you to be able to reference to see how much weight you can expect to lose on the Healthy Solutions diet if you're 100% in the box and getting in your PA. So we'll post that afterwards. But just before we wrap up, I would like to say that if you are, you're 100% on the diet, in the box, but you lose little to no weight 1 or 2 weeks in a row, hang with it. You're probably not experiencing a plateau in that case. It could just be, you'll lose more weight the next week. So hang with it. Rarely do people lose the same amount week to week. So I don't want to set anyone up for that expectation. Our bodies are unpredictable at times, and there's shifts in the water weight that we carry, so that can show up on the scale. And there are a whole lot of things at play here: water retention from sore muscles, medications, excessive sodium, travel, we mentioned earlier. But stay the course. If you're in the box, getting in all your foods, exercising, that scale usually will reward you. So hang in there. All right. So just to recap the tips that Annika and I have covered to help with slow weight loss or weight loss plateaus. Tip number 1, stay in the box. Practice more is better. Get in your minimums and eat enough HMR foods, fruits and vegetables to stay in the box. and practice those volume strategies. Try that recipe Annika shared. If you missed it, you got to rewatch the event to get it. Watch those BLTs too, those bites, licks, and tastes. Aim for 300 PA calories a day or work up to it, or just move your body if you're not quite getting up to 300. Something is better than nothing. Try small bouts. Try higher calorie burn days. Track what you do in the app and just see how it adds up. And then measure your add-ins and condiments. 15 calories or less per tablespoon is the general rule, and measure. All right.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We all deal with slow weight loss and plateaus at times, but there are strategies like the ones that we talked about tonight that can really help you get past this. Hopefully you've heard something that you can try this weekend or coming week. And if you missed any of this live, you can watch the full recording. We'll be sharing it to the HMR main Facebook page, and we'll be pinning this one to the top of our diet community support page. So just be sure to start it from the beginning if you hadn't had a chance to join when we started. And we appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in tonight, and we hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.